The train station was busy. People walked fast, holding bags, talking on phones, rushing to catch their trains. Among the crowd, a young boy named Ammon sat quietly on a bench. He was just 19 years old. He wore a simple black hoodie and jeans. His eyes looked tired. His backpack sat next to him. He checked the time on his phone and sighed. His train was late. Ammon wasn't doing anything wrong. He was just waiting. But someone was watching him. Across the station, a man stood near the coffee stall. He was holding a walkie-talkie. He whispered, "Target confirmed. Move in." Suddenly, everything changed. 5 police officers in black uniforms rushed toward Ammon. They shouted loudly, "Get on the ground, now." People screamed and ran away. Some pulled out their phones to record. Ammon stood up, confused and scared. "What's going on?" he asked, but they didn't answer. One officer grabbed him, threw him to the ground, and handcuffed him tightly. Ammon cried out, "I didn't do anything," but no one listened. The officer searched his backpack and found a strange metal box inside, a device Ammon had never seen before. "This is him," one officer said. "Call the team." Ammon looked around. People were staring at him like he was a monster. "It's not mine. I don't know what that is," he shouted again. But the damage was done. News vans arrived within minutes. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. "Is he the bomber? Is this the terrorist from last week? Why is a teenager carrying explosives?" The police didn't correct them. They just dragged Ammon into a van and drove away. Ammon's mind was spinning. This must be a mistake, he thought. They'll figure it out soon. But that didn't happen. They took him to a hidden location, not a regular police station, a dark building with no signs. He was pushed into a small room with no windows. Just a table, 2 chairs, and a camera in the corner. A tall man in a suit walked in. He didn't say his name. "Sit down," he said coldly. "I want a lawyer," Ammon said. "You're not in a position to make demands." The man replied. They began questioning him for hours. "Who are you? Where were you born? Who gave you that bag? Why were you at the station?" Ammon answered honestly every time. "My name is Ammon. I was born here. I study at City College. I don't know who put that thing in my bag. I was just going to visit my uncle." But they didn't believe him. "Your story doesn't match," the man said. "Your ID is fake. Your college says you were suspended, and we found calls to a blocked number on your phone." "That's not true," Ammon shouted. "Check again. My ID is real." But the man leaned forward and whispered, "You should confess. It'll be easier that way." Ammon was left alone in the room for hours. He looked up at the camera. "Please," he said softly. "Someone has to believe me." Meanwhile, on the news, his face was everywhere. Photos of him smiling, studying, helping kids in his neighborhood, replaced by pictures of him in handcuffs. Reporters used words like dangerous, radical, secret plan. Ammon's friends were shocked. Some believed the news, others stayed quiet. His best friend Zion tried calling Ammon's number, but it was off. Back at the hidden building, Ammon couldn't sleep. He remembered his mother's voice telling him, "Always do what's right, even when it's hard." He thought about his father, who died when Ammon was 12. Ammon had promised to make him proud. But now, the world thought he was a criminal. The next morning, he was taken to another room. This one had a glass window. Behind it, people in suits watched him like he was a science experiment. A new officer came in. Her name tag read Zara. She looked at him differently, not with hate, but with curiosity. "You don't look like a terrorist," she said softly. "Because I'm not," Ammon replied. Zara asked a few questions and took notes. When she left the room, she looked back at him one last time. Ammon noticed something in her eyes, bowed. Maybe she didn't believe the story everyone else was pushing. Hours passed. Suddenly, an officer rushed in and handed a file to the man who first questioned Ammon. He opened it, read something, and frowned. He walked back into the room and dropped the file on the table. "You still want to say you're innocent?" he asked. Amman opened the file. It had photos of him at the station. But something was wrong. The timestamps were off. In one photo, he was already at the bench, but in the next, he was walking in from outside. It didn't make sense. "This doesn't prove anything," Ammon said. The man smiled. "Or maybe it proves everything." He left Ammon alone again. Ammon stared at the file, confused. Then something caught his eye. On the corner of one page was a signature, very small, almost invisible. But he recognized it, his father's handwriting. But how? His father died years ago. Ammon's heartbeat raced. He whispered, "What is going on?" He looked again at the file, searching every page. Then, on the back of one photo, written in light pencil, were the words, "Trust no one, they're hiding the truth." Ammon leaned back in the chair, heart pounding. Someone had set him up, and whoever it was, knew everything about him. Ammon sat in the corner of the cell, his knees pulled up to his chest. The room was cold, the lights always too bright, and the silence too loud. He hadn't slept in 2 days. His body was tired, but his mind kept spinning. Nothing made sense. Why had someone put a strange device in his bag? Why had the police arrested him without asking questions? And now, that signature? His father's name written in pencil on the back of a photo from the case file. But his father had died years ago, or so Ammon thought. The door opened with a loud creak. Officer Zara stepped inside. She looked tired too, like she hadn't slept either. In her hand was a cup of tea. She placed it gently in front of Ammon. I thought you could use something warm, she said quietly. Ammon looked up suspicious, but grateful. He hadn't eaten much since the arrest. Why are you being kind to me? He asked. Zara sat across from him. Because I'm starting to think something isn't right here. Ammon leaned forward, speaking in a low voice. I saw my father's signature in the file. I'm sure of it. She looked at him carefully. Tell me about your father. Ammon took a breath. His name was Omar Rahman. He used to work in government records. Very quiet man, smart, honest. But when I was 12, he died in a fire. That's what we were told. Zara's expression changed. What if he didn't die? Ammon froze. What are you saying? I did some digging, she whispered. Your father worked in a sensitive department. He was investigating corruption involving fake identity systems. Right before his death, he filed a report. That report disappeared after the fire, and so did all of his backups. Ammon. Heartbeat grew faster. You think someone killed him? I don't know yet, Zara replied. But it's strange. And now you're here, framed, silenced. Maybe someone is trying to erase the rest of his legacy. Ammon stood up. I need to get out of here. Please help me. I can't do that yet, she said, but I can get you more information. You have to stay strong. Before she left, she slipped a folded paper into the teacup. Read it when you're alone. That night, Ammon opened the note under his blanket. It was a name and address. Safe contact. Trust only her. The name, Farah Youssef. He didn't recognize it, but it was something. A new thread in the web of lies. Meanwhile, outside the news kept showing Ammon's face. They called him a suspect, with foreign connections. Some said he had confessed. Others said he was part of a group, but none of it was true. Zayan, Ammon's best friend, watched in shock. He knew Ammon wasn't a criminal. They had grown up together, played cricket, in the streets, studied at the same college. But now, Zayan had doubts too. Why wasn't Ammon saying anything? Why hadn't he called anyone? Late that night, Zayan received a strange message from an unknown number. Your friend is innocent. Help him before it's too late. Find Farah Youssef. Attached was a voice clip. Ammon's voice, recorded secretly. Zayan stared at his phone. He made a decision. He would find this woman. Back in the cell, Ammon had a dream. He saw his father standing in front of a burning building, holding a briefcase. They're watching you now, his father said in the dream. But they don't know what you carry. When he woke up, his hands were sweaty and his heart was racing. What did it mean? The next morning, Zara returned. She looked pale, nervous. Someone tampered with your file, she said. Your school records, your ID, even your travel history, they've been changed. It looks like you were part of something you've never even heard of. Why? Ammon asked. Why go through all this trouble? Because someone's trying to erase you. Just then, a man entered the room. A new interrogator. He was calm, smiling. He introduced himself as Mr. Khurram. I believe in second chances, he said. If you help us, things can go easier for you. I've done nothing wrong. Ammon replied firmly. Mr. Khurram slid a photo across the table. It showed a woman standing outside a building. The same name was written at the bottom. Farah Youssef. You were seen speaking with her, he lied. Do you deny it? Ammon stared at the photo. I don't even know her. Mr. Khurram leaned closer. Don't lie to us. We're the only ones who can protect you. Ammon said nothing. He realized now that this man was not here for truth. He was here to bury it. Later that day, Zara met Ammon again in secret. I think they know I'm helping you, she whispered. We don't have much time. What should I do? You need to get out, she said. Tonight, I'll leave your cell door unlocked for 10 seconds. Walk, don't run. Go to the back staircase. There's an old exit there, and take this. She handed him a flash drive. What is it? Ammon ran through the empty streets under the pale moonlight, his heart thudding in his chest. Every sound made him flinch. Every shadow looked like danger. He was a wanted man, now framed, hunted, and alone. But he had something they didn't. The flash drive, and a name. Farah Youssef. Somewhere in this city was a woman who could help him uncover the truth. He stopped near a bus stand and pulled Zara's note from his pocket. The address was written in small, shaky handwriting. He memorized it, then tore the paper into tiny pieces and tossed them into a gutter. No mistakes, no trails. By the time he reached the building, dawn was just beginning to rise. The place was old, a narrow 3-story structure with rusted gates and faded paint. It didn't look like the kind of place that held secrets, but Ammon had learned by now that truth often hid in plain sight. He knocked on the door twice. Numbered answer. He waited, looked around, then knocked again, this time, louder. The door opened a crack. A tired-looking woman peeked out, eyes sharp behind her glasses. She looked him up and down. You're early, she said. You know who I am? Ammon asked. Surprised, she opened the door wider. Zara warned me. Come in. The apartment was small but neat. Books lined every wall. Old papers were stacked on the table. Ammon noticed newspaper clippings pinned to a board. Headlines like whistleblower dies and suspicious fire and data leak scandal silenced. Farah pointed to a chair. Sit. You look like you've been running all night. I have, he said. They framed me. They planted something in my bag and called me a terrorist. I didn't do anything. I know, she replied calmly. Your father told me something like this would happen. Aman froze. You knew him? Yes, he was my mentor. We worked together in the records department. When he discovered a plan to change digital identities and erase real people, he tried to stop it. But someone powerful was behind it. That fire it wasn't an accident. Aman felt his throat tighten. He didn't die in the fire. No, he escaped, she said quietly, but only for a short time. He went underground, trying to collect more evidence. He left everything he had on that flash drive. He told me if anything ever happened to him, I should help you. Aman handed her the drive with shaking hands. Do you know what's inside? I never saw it. He said it was dangerous. Said it held names, bank details, locations proof that a secret group was building false IDs and using innocent people to cover their crimes. Farah plugged the drive into her old laptop. Aman leaned forward, watching the screen load. A folder appeared, titled Project Echo. She clicked it open. There were hundreds of files, audio clips, scanned documents, even videos. One of the files had Aman's name on it. She opened it. A video began playing. It showed a younger Omar Rehman sitting in a dark room. If you're watching this, he said into the camera, it means they got to me. And probably to you. I'm sorry, Aman. I tried to keep you out of this. But I know now that they'll come for you one day. Aman couldn't breathe. They built a system, Omar continued. Fake names, fake passports, fake charges. They use young people like you as scapegoats. But I have all the proof. This drive, it can destroy everything they've built. You just have to survive long enough to get it out. The video ended. Aman wiped his face, realizing he had been crying. I don't even know how to fight something this big, he whispered. Farah looked at him. You don't have to fight it alone. She copied the files onto another device and said, we need to get this to someone who can expose it. Not just the media. We need someone with reach and courage. Aman thought of his friend Zion. If anyone could help spread the truth fast, it was him. He sent Zion a message using Farah's secure laptop. It's me. I'm alive. Meet me at the old library at 4 p.m. Come alone. Then he powered down the device. Farah gave him a hoodie and a cap. You can't go out looking like yourself. Your face is still all over the news. As he left the apartment, she added, and Aman, your father would be proud. He nodded, too emotional to speak. Hours later, Zion arrived at the library. His eyes were red, and he looked around nervously. Aman stepped out from behind a bookshelf and called his name softly. Zion turned on froze. Aman, he whispered, you're really here. They hugged tightly. Then Zion pulled back. Bro, the whole country thinks you're a terrorist. What's going on? Aman told him everything: his arrest, the planted evidence, the fake files, the flash drive, and the truth about his father. Zion listened, stunned. I need your help, Aman said. I have proof, but I need it online, fast before they find me again. Zion nodded. Say no more. They rushed to a nearby internet cafe. Using Zion's online channel, they uploaded parts of the flash drive, especially the video of Omar Rehman. Within an hour, it started spreading. By evening, it was everywhere, trending on social media. People began asking questions. Why did this boy have so much classified information? Why was he arrested without a warrant? Why did his father die mysteriously? But just as they felt hope, danger struck again. Outside the cafe, 2 black cars pulled up. Men in dark suits stepped out, scanning the area. They found us. Aman whispered. They slipped out the back door and ran into the alley. Gunshots rang out in the distance. They didn't stop running. The truth was out there now, but so was the enemy, and they weren't going to let it spread without a fight. Aman and Zion kept running through narrow alleys, their breaths heavy, their hearts racing. The black cars were still searching nearby, but for now, they had escaped. They didn't stop until they reached an abandoned warehouse far from the city center. Zion had heard about the place from an old friend, a spot used long ago for storage, now forgotten by most. They climbed through a broken window and found a dusty corner to hide in. Aman sat down, exhausted. They were ready. That means they were watching us. They probably traced the upload. Zion nodded, wiping sweat from his face. But we got the video out. It's everywhere. People are starting to ask questions. My phone's exploding with messages. Aman looked at him. That means we don't have much time. We need to figure out the rest of what's on that drive. My father said it holds names, bank accounts, locations. We need to know who's behind this. Zion pulled out the second copy of the flash drive that Farah had made. Let's find out. They connected it to Aman's small laptop. The screen lit up with folders. One stood out labeled Blacklist. Inside were dozens of profiles, photos, fake names, real names, government connections. Aman scrolled through and paused when he saw one photo. His eyes widened. It was Mr. Kerm, the man who interrogated him. Below the photo, alias used in operations, Kerm Zahir, real name Kaleem Bashir. Asset handler, operations chief. Suspected link to Project Echo. Zayan leaned closer. So he's not even who he says he is. Aman nodded. No wonder he was calm. He was part of this from the beginning. As they kept scrolling, they found one more familiar name, Zara, but instead of labeling her as an operative, her file read, Internal risk, may defect. Monitor closely. She was right, Aman whispered. They knew she was helping me. Just then, Zion's phone buzzed. A message popped up from an unknown number. They've arrested Farah. She's being transported to Central Holding. Aman stood up. We can't let them take her. If they silence her, it's over. Zion looked hesitant. Bro, Central Holding is like a fortress. I'm not leaving her, Aman said firmly. She helped me. She knew my father. I owe her everything. They planned fast. Aman would go near the entrance and create a distraction. Zion would sneak into the side alley where prison vans usually stopped. It was risky, but waiting meant losing Farah forever. That evening, as the sky turned orange, they moved quietly towards Central Holding. The building was tall, with iron gates and multiple guards. Aman walked across the road slowly, keeping his head low. Then he took out a small metal pipe from his backpack, lit a firecracker attached to it, and threw it under a parked police car. Boom, smoke and sparks flew. Alarms blared. Officers ran toward the smoke, shouting commands. At the same time, Zion climbed the wall at the back and dropped down. He crouched low, hiding behind a delivery truck. Moments later, a black van arrived. 2 guards stepped out and opened the back doors. Inside, Farah sat with her hands tied, a bruise on her cheek. One guard pulled her roughly. Move. Zion didn't hesitate. He threw a handful of dust into the guard's eyes and punched him in the stomach. The second guard turned, but Zion swung the van door hard, knocking him back. Farah, he called. She looked shocked. Zion, how? No time. He untied her and helped her out. Come on. They climbed over the wall just as another siren screamed in the distance. On the other side, Aman was waiting with a bike. He handed his helmet to Farah and shouted, Go. Zion jumped on the bike with her and sped off while Aman vanished into the alley. Minutes later, police cars circled the building, but all 3 had disappeared. They regrouped that night in a safe house owned by one of Zion's trusted cousins. Farah was weak but alive. Her voice cracked as she said, They wanted the drive. They knew I had helped you. Aman sat beside her. You're safe now, but we need to move faster. Farah nodded and opened another folder on the flash drive. This one shows the financial route. The money moves through fake NGOs. If we expose where the money goes, we expose them all. Zion quickly began creating another video. This one included the secret files, names, and proof of money laundering. Amon's voice echoed through millions of screens across the country. Every word he spoke was clear, steady, and full of emotion. He didn't read from a script. He didn't hide behind soft answers. He told the world exactly what had happened, how he was arrested without reason, how evidence was planted, and how his father's name had been erased from history after uncovering a dangerous truth. He told them about Project Echo, the fake IDs, the stolen funds, the real victims, whose identities were used to commit crimes. He spoke of the flash drive, the files, and the people in power who tried to bury everything. The news anchor sat frozen. The studio was quiet. Even the camera crew listened with wide eyes. When the interview ended, Aman stood up and looked directly into the camera. This isn't just about me. It's about anyone who's ever been silenced for speaking the truth. We all deserve better. By the time he stepped out of the building, thousands of people had already gathered outside. They weren't there to protest. They were cheering, applauding, holding signs that said Truth Matters and Free Aman. But not everyone was happy. In a dark room across town, Mr. Kurm Rial named Kaleem Bashir watched the interview from a private monitor. His jaw tightened. His hand gripped the edge of the desk. He's turning the people against us, said one of the men beside him. Kaleem didn't answer immediately. He stared at Amon's face on the screen. I warned them, he finally said. I told them never to underestimate the boy. But now, it's too late. He's a symbol. The man beside him asked, What do we do? Kaleem turned away from the screen. We end it. We end him tonight. Back at the safe house, Aman, Zion, and Farah were watching the public response. Online hashtags about Amon's truth were trending worldwide. News channels were starting to ask real questions. Lawyers had begun filing petitions. I think this might actually work, Zion said, smiling. But Aman wasn't smiling. We've shaken the system, yes, but it's still standing. They won't give up power without a fight. Farah nodded. They'll come at you harder now. You've exposed too much. We need to stay ahead. Suddenly, Zion's phone buzzed. A message flashed on the screen. Get out now. They're coming. Aman grabbed the flash drive and packed it quickly. Zion, take the backup files and head to the university. Professor Harris is on our side. Farah and I will go in a separate direction. No way, Zion protested. We stay together. We split up, Aman insisted. That way, even if one of us is caught, the files survive. Reluctantly, Zion agreed. They hugged tightly before slipping out the back door. The night was quiet, but the silence felt dangerous. Aman and Farah moved fast through narrow back streets. They had almost reached the taxi stand when a black SUV screeched to a halt in front of them. Run, Farah shouted. Men jumped out, dressed in black. Guns drawn, Aman and Farah ducked into an alley and kept running. They climbed over a fence and ran through a garbage-filled courtyard. Suddenly, Farah tripped and fell. Aman stopped and pulled her up, but she winced in pain. Her ankle was hurt. "You go," she said, breathing hard. "You have the files. I'm not leaving you. There's no time. Aman, go." Aman hesitated, torn, but in her eyes, he saw determination. She wasn't afraid. She was ready. He handed her a burner phone. "Call Zion if you make it out." Then he turned and disappeared into the shadows. Farah, hiding behind a wall, watched as the men passed her by. She remained hidden until the area cleared, then limped toward an old shop nearby where she knew someone loyal. Meanwhile, Aman reached a hidden internet cafe run by a student activist. Inside, he opened the flash drive again. There was one folder left marked Final Evidence. He clicked it. A video began to play. It was grainy but clear enough. It showed a secret meeting. High-profile men discussing how to erase digital records, move money using fake charity organizations, and silence anyone who got too close. One of the voices was Kaleem's. Another voice mentioned his father's name, Momar Rehman. "This is it," Ayman whispered. "This is what will end them." He uploaded the video to multiple platforms, to journalists, to human rights groups, to student unions, to international networks. He made sure it reached everyone who could use it. Within the hour, chaos erupted. The video broke news stations. Hashtags exploded. Government hotlines crashed from calls. Even some officials began distancing themselves from the operation. But Aman knew they wouldn't just give up. As expected, his phone buzzed. An anonymous message. "If you speak again, you die. Walk away now. Final warning." He didn't reply. Instead, he stepped out into the streets, walked into a press conference being held nearby, and stood in front of the cameras. "I received a threat 10 minutes ago," he announced. "They told me to stay quiet. I won't. I will not be afraid, and neither should you." People cheered from a nearby rooftop. Kaleem watched through binoculars, his jaw clenched again. His phone rang. "Sir," the voice said, "we lost control of the narrative." "Orders." Kaleem stared at the boy on screen. No longer afraid, no longer quiet. He ended the call without a word. Back at the safe house, Farah returned with the help of a loyal shopkeeper. Zion made it safely to the university, where students began printing and distributing flyers with QR codes linking to Ayman's videos. The movement had begun. Ayman, once a silent student, was now the voice of a generation, and though danger still waited in the shadows, he was no longer alone. The sun rose over the city, but peace still seemed far away. Aman hadn't slept all night. He sat on the rooftop of a safe building with his hoodie pulled up, staring at the skyline. The city was buzzing with protests, news vans, and helicopters. What began as one boy's fight for justice had turned into a national awakening. But with every victory came greater danger. Downstairs, Farah was resting with her ankle bandaged. Zion was on the phone with a journalist who wanted to arrange a public forum, a live panel where Aman could debate one of the government spokespersons. "They want to embarrass you on air," Zion warned as he climbed up to the roof. "You sure you want to do it?" Aman nodded. "If I don't show up, they'll say I'm scared, and if I do, I get to speak where they can't cut me off." Zion handed him a protein bar. "Eat something, you need strength." Ayman unwrapped it silently. His eyes looked distant, heavy with thought. "They've started deleting the videos," he said after a while. "I checked this morning. 3 links are gone, 2 accounts suspended. They're trying to clean up the mess." Zion sighed. But people have already seen it. The truth is out." Ayman nodded again but looked uncertain. "It's not over until Kaleem Bashir is exposed completely. Right now, he's just hiding in the shadows, pulling strings." That same morning, inside a high-rise office, Kaleem watched the footage of Aman speaking at the last press conference. His team had tried flagging the content, but every time one copy was removed, 10 more appeared. People had begun recognizing Kaleem's voice from the leaked videos. The walls were closing in. An assistant entered his office. "Sir, the minister wants answers. He's asking for your resignation." Kaleem didn't look up. "They don't get to push me out. I made this system. Without me, half of them wouldn't even have jobs." The assistant hesitated, then said, "And Ayman's going to be live tonight, debating publicly." Kaleem finally turned. "Then make sure he doesn't speak, no matter what it takes." Later that afternoon, Aman, Zion, and Farah met with the journalist who would moderate the live debate. The studio was under tight security, but Aman knew even that wouldn't guarantee safety. Farah whispered, "I've seen these types before. If they can't destroy your words, they'll try to destroy your body." "I know," Ayman said softly, "but I can't back down now." Inside the green room, Aman took a moment alone. He looked into the mirror. His face had changed. More serious, sharper, no longer the quiet student he once was. "I'm doing this for you, Baba," he whispered, "and for everyone they tried to silence." The lights dimmed. The countdown began. The broadcast went live. On one side of the screen sat Aman, on the other was a well-dressed government spokesperson named Mr. Shah, known for spinning narratives and avoiding straight answers. The host began. Tonight, we bring you a historic conversation. Aman Riemann, the young man at the center of a national controversy, will face questions and speak his truth. Mr. Shah spoke first, trying to appear calm and professional. With all due respect, this young man is confused. He found files? He doesn't understand. He's being used by anti-national forces. Aman replied firmly, "No, sir. I understand everything. I understand corruption, abuse of power, and injustice. I lived it. You call it confusion, I call it clarity." Mr. Shah chuckled nervously. "This is not how things work. You don't just accuse senior officials without proof." Aman leaned forward. "Then let's play the video again. The one where your colleague, Kaleem Bashir, talks about building false identities to control public opinion." The screen behind them lit up with the footage. The host looked uncomfortable, but it was too late to stop it. The video played. The voice was clear. The room was silent. After the video ended, Aman spoke directly to the camera. "This isn't just about me. It's about the people who've been arrested, erased, or blackmailed by a broken system. If we stay silent now, they win." The host tried to cut to commercial, but the audience both in studio and watching live was already reacting. Social media exploded again. Viewers demanded Kaleem's arrest. The courtroom was packed beyond capacity. Reporters lined the back wall, their cameras flashing every few seconds. Policemen stood stiff at every corner. Citizens from all walks of life had gathered outside the building, chanting Ayman's name. For weeks, the nation had watched his story unfold like a thriller filled with betrayal, danger, and truth. Now it was time to turn that truth into justice. Ayman sat quietly beside his lawyer, a young but fearless woman named Mahira Sadiq. She had taken the case the moment the documents were released. Her confidence gave Ayman some peace, though his hands were still trembling under the table. On the other side sat representatives of the government, including Mr. Shah and several officers named in the Project Echo files. They were confident expressions, but their eyes revealed nervousness. They knew the evidence was real. What they hoped was that it wouldn't be enough. The judge entered. Everyone rose. "This court is now in session to hear the petition filed by Aman Riemann, citizen of this country, against several public officials in relation to illegal surveillance, fabrication of evidence, identity fraud, and attempted assassination." The judge read out. Mahira stood. "Your Honor, we come to this court not only to clear my client's name, but to expose a criminal web that stretches into the heart of power. I will prove that Aman Riemann was targeted not because of any crime, but because of his bloodline. His father, Omar Riemann, uncovered corruption years ago that certain people wanted buried forever." The defense scoffed. "A dramatic story, Your Honor, but without basis. Where is the proof?" Mahira turned to the projector and inserted a pen drive. "Let's begin with a voice familiar to all of us." The courtroom went silent as the recording played. It was Kaleem Bashir's voice. The video showed him casually discussing how to erase digital trails, how to frame innocent people, and how Omar Riemann had almost ruined everything before his sudden death. The judge's expression hardened. Next, Mahira presented the document trail confidential letters that approved black operations under the guise of national security. Several bore Mr. Shah's signature. One letter even ordered the deletion of Ayman's school records and the creation of a fake travel history linking him to foreign networks. Mr. Shah stood in panic. "This is fabricated. I never signed these." Mahira responded calmly. "Then, please explain why the metadata on these files shows access from your official login, ID, and timestamps that match your office hours." Gasps filled the courtroom. The judge leaned forward. "You're saying the identity and life history of a citizen were altered with official approval?" "Yes, Your Honor, and this wasn't the first time. Project Echo was used to create new identities for criminals and erase those of whistleblowers. Aman was targeted because his father's files remained hidden on a forgotten backup system." The judge turned to Aman. "Is that true, son?" Aman stood slowly. "Yes, sir. I was arrested, beaten, and threatened. They wanted the flash drive. They tried to kill me. But I didn't stop because I remembered my father's words. Never let fear speak louder than truth." Outside the courtroom, the crowd erupted in cheers. As the hearing progressed, more pieces of evidence were presented: bank transfers, showing stolen funds, photographs, linking Kaleem to known underworld figures, and confessions from former insiders who had come forward inspired by Ayman's bravery. By midday, the defense had stopped speaking. They had nothing left. But just when it seemed like the case was sealed, a loud bang echoed through the courtroom. Everyone ducked. A bullet had shattered a light above the judge's bench. Security rushed in. In the chaos, a masked man stood at the back, pointing a gun at Aman. "End this now," he shouted, "or you all die." Aman stood frozen. He recognized the man's voice. It was Kaleem Bashir himself, now exposed, desperate, and armed. "Put the gun down," Mahira screamed, but Kaleem wasn't listening. His eyes were wild. "You destroyed everything. I built this system. I made order, and you're just a boy with a laptop." Aman stepped forward. "You built fear, I built truth." Kaleem aimed the gun directly at him. Suddenly, a shot rang out, not from Kaleem's gun, but from behind. A police sniper on the rooftop had fired. Kaleem collapsed, the weapon falling from his hand. Officers rushed in and cuffed him as he screamed, "You'll never win. They're everywhere." Silence returned to the courtroom. The judge cleared his throat. Let the record show that the accused attempted to disrupt this hearing with violence, further proving the threat he posed to society. He banged the gavel. This court orders an immediate investigation into all individuals and agencies connected to Project Echo. Arrest warrants will be issued based on the evidence provided. And most importantly, this court declares Aman innocent of all charges. His name will be restored, his record cleared, and he shall receive public protection until the matter is fully resolved. Aman collapsed into his chair, tears welling in his eyes. Zion and Farah, sitting in the gallery, stood and clapped. The entire courtroom echoed with applause. That evening, the news headlines read, "Truth triumphs, Aman, Reman's courage breaks corrupt network." Citizens celebrated. Social media flooded with tributes. Artists painted murals of Aman and Omar Ruman. Lawyers called for reform of identity systems. Activists demanded accountability. But most of all, people remembered. They remembered that it took one voice shaking, scared, but brave enough to speak for the whole system to start cracking. As Aman stood on the steps of the courthouse, flashbulbs bursting and microphones reaching for his words, he simply said, "This fight was never just mine. It was ours. And it's just the beginning." The celebration was loud, but Aman felt quiet inside. He stood at the window of a small apartment, far from the city center, watching as fireworks lit up the sky. People cheered his name on the streets below, holding candles and waving posters with his face on them. But even in this moment of victory, a strange weight sat in his chest. The battle was over, but the damage remained. Behind him, Zion was scrolling through his phone, reading out the headlines. "Hero of the nation, Aman Rehman, the boy who defeated the shadows. Bro, you're everywhere." He grinned. "Even a song came out this morning. Someone made a rap with your courtroom lines." Farah smiled gently from the couch. Her ankle was healing well. "You've become a symbol now, but I know the real you. The boy who walked into my apartment scared and exhausted, but burning with purpose." Aman turned around. "I don't feel like a hero." "You don't have to," she said softly. "Heroes never do." He sat down and finally allowed himself a deep breath. It had been a long road, one filled with fear, betrayal, and loss. But now the truth had spoken louder than lies. Dozens of officials were under investigation. Kaleem Bashir was in a high-security cell awaiting trial, and Project Echo had been fully dismantled. The documents Mahira submitted in court had opened a national inquiry, and a new task force had been created to monitor any future abuse of digital identity systems. Still, Aman knew the scars wouldn't fade so easily. His father was gone, his name had been dragged through the mud, and for a while, he'd been hunted like a criminal. "What now?" Zion asked, tossing his phone aside. "You gonna join politics, or become a full-time activist?" Aman shook his head. "No. I want something real. I want to start a foundation in my father's name. A place where people who've been silenced, framed, or erased can come forward safely." Farah leaned forward. "That's a good idea, and I'll help. We can offer legal aid, media training, maybe even build a secure platform for whistleblowers." Zion raised his hand. "I'll handle the tech, videos, outreach, social media. Leave it to me." For the first time in weeks, Aman smiled. "Then let's do it together." Over the next few weeks, they quietly started working. They rented a small office, designed a simple logo, a flame within a circle symbolizing truth, burning through darkness. They named it the Reman Initiative. It started small, one volunteer, then 5, then 20. Stories poured in from all over the country, people who had been wrongly jailed, fired for speaking up, or threatened into silence. Some cried as they finally shared their truth. Others brought old documents, photos, even USB drives. Every case mattered. Every voice counted. One day, a woman in her 60s walked into the office. Her eyes were heavy with pain, and she clutched a worn-out file in her arms. She placed it on Aman's desk. "My son was like you," she said. "He tried to expose corruption in a hospital. They said he was mentally unstable and locked him away. He died last year. But I kept everything. I never gave up." Aman took her hand gently. "You don't have to fight alone anymore." As the foundation grew, so did Aman's reputation, not as a national hero, but as someone who truly listened. People didn't come to take selfies with him, they came to find justice. And he gave them hope. One afternoon, Aman received a letter. In the mail, no name, no return address. Inside was a photo of his father, younger and smiling, holding baby Aman in his arms. On the back, a single line was written. He would be proud. His throat tightened. He sat in silence for a long time, gripping the photo like it was the only thing holding him together. When he finally spoke, it was only a whisper. "I miss you, Baba." That night, he added a new section to the Rahman Initiative's website, a memorial wall, not just for his father, but for everyone who had been silenced in the past. He called it the Wall of the Unheard. Names, faces, and short stories filled the page.